What's up, guys? This is Dustin Briggs, and thank you so much for tuning into the very first episode of the Dustin Briggs Show. This is going to be posted on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and probably Podcast One or Apple Podcasts. I haven't really decided yet which one it's going to be. But nonetheless, I thank you so much for tuning in, and I ask that you just hit that share button, subscribe button, do whatever you need to do to just try to get my name out there for me, so I appreciate it. Got a great show for you here for the inaugural episode. We're going to sit down and just kind of talk shop with the real deal Jayden Steele, who happens to be my trainer for the sport of professional wrestling. We're going to talk about a couple of things, a plethora of things actually, and we're going to ask some questions that you guys submitted on Twitter, and Instagram, using the hashtag AskSteele. We didn't really talk about the questions that I had from my small amount of fans. I'm fairly new in the game, haven't had a chance to build a fan base yet, but I've got a couple people out there cheering for me. But nonetheless, we didn't really ask many of those questions. I think it was like one or two or whatever, but it was a really good conversation, and I really think you're going to enjoy what we have coming up for you on this episode. But before we get to the body of this podcast, just wanted to get out there a couple things on my mind and just kind of throw some things out there for you as I get tongue-tied that's going on. So right before I'm recording this open here, I actually just got done doing some homework for one of my college classes. For those of you that don't know, I'm currently enrolled at a college here in Florida full-time to finish my bachelor's degree. I'm pursuing a bachelor's degree in project management with an emphasis in acquisitions, and I got about a year and a half left, maybe a year if I really bust my ass and don't take any breaks. But right now is a summer semester, and I'm taking a class. One of my classes out of the three I'm taking is Introduction to Microcomputer Applications, which sounds really lame, and I took it because I thought it would be fairly easy, and so far it's not too bad. It's really just a class that teaches you how to use Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, stuff like that. And, when I first signed up for it, I was like, how in the hell is it going to be 2017 and people don't know how to use a computer? And believe it or not, there's some bitches in that class that have not used Microsoft Word before. I was blown away, to say the least. But nonetheless, it's not a bad class. The instructor's kind of cool. She's an older lady, but she's kind of cool. The class isn't really too bad, so I don't really feel like I'm blowing too much money for this class. But anyway, I got done doing homework for that. I'm also taking, what else am I taking? Biology and sociology, and these three classes for this semester are going to wrap up my general ed for my bachelor's degree, and then I go to my upper division stuff this fall. So wish me luck on that. It does take up a lot of my time, but somehow I still find time to run my business. I'm a landscaper and train when I can with the real deal Jayden Steele. So speaking of landscaping, I'll tell you what, we have had a shit ton of rain down here for the past couple weeks in Florida, and I'll tell you what, that really messes with somebody's schedule when you're in an industry such as me, where you have to be outside working all the time. It's great because, water makes things grow, which means when things grow, people need it taken care of and mitigated, so they call people like me. Well, that does me no good if it's thunder and lightning and pouring down rain all the time and I can't get out and do what I need to do. So it's kind of a rock and a hard place. It's a bittersweet thing. Hopefully within the next week or two things will dry out a little bit. But for those of you that are familiar with our area, we're down here in the Pensacola area in the panhandle of Florida. We're vulnerable to hurricanes. Now, we haven't had a storm since, I want to say, a bad one since 2008, and I think that was Hurricane Dennis that came through here. So we're well overdue, and of course hurricane season started about 14 days ago. This thing's going to drop late on June 14th, so hurricane season starts on June 1st, and by God, there's already two things on the map that the Hurricane Center's looking at that are possibly going to form early. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens this year, and as that guy from Jurassic Park said, hold on to your butts and just see what happens. So So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get to the body of this podcast. I've got to head to the gym here and do some abs. Trying to finally find my six-pack if I can. It only took me 31 damn years to find it, so we'll see how that goes, but I really hope you enjoy what we've got here. This is myself and the real deal, Jayden Steele, having a nice conversation for y'all. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, share this as much as you can to get my name out there. I'd really appreciate it. But I'll catch you on the other side of this podcast. This is the Dustin Briggs Show. Thanks for tuning in. Alright, we're back. This is Dustin Briggs here on the Dustin Briggs Show, and on the line I've got the one and only, the real deal, Jayden Steele. How's it going, Jayden?
What's going on, Dustin?
Not much. Sitting here at the house. Got my first episode here of the Dustin Briggs Show. It's an honor to have you on here. So what's been going? What's been going on, man? What have you been up to? I haven't been in the ring with you for a little bit because we've had some conflicting schedule stuff going on. But what you been up to?
Oh, hell, man, I hear that. Man, I've just been studying tapes and just getting rewinds of, the good old days of back when it was actually wrestling and less entertainment, per se.
Right. Now, if a lot of the fans may not know this, but you're a second-generation superstar, is that correct?
That is 100% correct.
Tell us about your father.
Well, being a second-generation superstar of an old man that was in the 80s, back in the prime of professional wrestling, got born in 91, about 94, 95, come rolling around. He was doing shots for WWF all the way to ECW to WCW, traveled to Smoky Mountain, NWA, Japan, basically run around the globe, and ever since I was a little kid, I was being in the back of I remember more of the WWF locker room, for say, than anything else, from watching him go out to Sergeant Slaughter, bouncing me on his knee and wrestling with me back in the locker room on the floor, nicknaming me Jumpin' Jordan. God bless his heart, I love the guy, but I haven't really kept in contact with him very much growing up, and seeing the old man do it and getting in the ring and having the blessing of him training me, and then Rocky Johnson coming along, which those already know in the wrestling world that it's Dwayne Johnson's daddy. He helped me a little bit with promotion skills and a little bit of touching up, but I got a well-documented background when it comes to independent wrestling, man. Like, my background's pretty much lit up like Christmas Eve.
Nice. That's cool, man. I know you got quite the following here in our area. We're here in Northwest Florida, and from what I've been seeing online, I did some research before I had you on, but looks like you got a following in a couple states over as well. People asking you, other wrestlers asking who the fans are talking about when they want you to get in the ring with this guy. You got any info on that? What happened there?
Man, I'll tell you straight up that when it comes to the Panhandle, you're looking at the guy. I am the guy. We ain't talking about no Roman Reigns on TV trying to entertain people with a boring snooze fest. I mean, if you want the real deal, you got my number. The boys can hit me up. However, I'll get in the ring and I'll prove it day in, day out. There's nobody around this Panhandle that's better than me. Like I said, I take this as a passion. This is in my blood. I'm a purebred. Like, this is what I do. I ain't here to play. I'm here to change the sport of professional wrestling for the best.
Right, that's good. That's good stuff, man. So, what's your training regimen? What kind of training do you do to stay in ring shape?
Oh, my training regimen. It's pretty insane. I kick the hell out of myself when I train. Basically, you're looking at, I like to do 6 days in the gym, maybe, 1 day off out of the 7. I like to try to go every single day if I can. I'm looking at 2 to 4 hours in and out, and then somewhere in between that, I'm always trying to, get either, some trainees that I work with in my own ring, or I'll get in there by myself and I'll just bust my ass with cardio, man, because cardio and conditioning is the way to go. I mean, you look on TV, you're seeing main events now going 30, 40 minutes, you know what I'm saying, with a bunch of high spots and in-ring action. So if your cardio is not up to par, then you're going to pretty much wet the bed at that point.
Man, I'll tell you what, you brought up cardio. I'm sure you remembered watching Tough Enough back in 2011 where Stone Cold Steve Austin was the host. I'm not talking about the
man,
one...
they kicked the hell out of them guys.
I'm not I'm not talking about the one that Jericho was the host of. No disrespect to Chris Jericho, tremendous performer. However, I got to say that the predecessor to that season, the one that Stone Cold ran, was awesome. So you're talking about cardio. What are your thoughts on guys like ZZ that want to be in the business, but they just don't have the motivation or the passion to get themselves in shape to actually do it?
You're talking about the alligator guy, right? ZZ?
Yeah, ZZ. Everybody loved his personality, but he just didn't seem to have what it took to perform in a physical aspect.
Well, I mean, you're looking at a generation now where, like, size doesn't really matter. It's more of an entertainment aspect of if you're making this business money, because with this generation of wrestling now, it's either how much are you worth to them. If you're not making them a dime, if you're not putting asses in the seats, then they're not going to want you, and, you know, you're just going to end up being some guy that just showed up, and then about 6 months later down the road, you're just a nobody, and nobody's ever going to remember you. So as far as, like, guys with, like, cardio conditioning problems, I mean, you can look at people like Big Show as in phenomenal shape that, you know, day in, day out. Like, he's even got abs now, I believe. Like, I think I've seen a post with abs on that giant, and that's pretty insane. But, like, he day in, day out, man, he still does cardio, and, like, at the end of the day, it really comes down to how bad you want it, because you got weekend warriors out here that just go work at your local gas station or Walmart, and then they come out for the weekend, want to put a pair of tights on and play superhero. I mean, if that's your reason of being in this business, you need to get the hell out, because guys like me will bleed and sweat and do anything they need to get over or get the other guy over.
You know, that's the thing. You're talking about the Big Show, and he did a tremendous transformation of his body. You know, I grew up, of course, watching the WWF. I was anti-WCW because, you know, that was...
Who wasn't, man?
That
Back
was,
in the day, I mean, you're talking about a father, man, that was in that business,
you know,
so I was strictly WWF.
That was the other guys. You know, I'd go to school, have my Stone Cold shirt on, and some guy walk in with Goldberg. I'm like, man, he's a rip-off of Stone Cold Steve Austin. But, you know, I remember when Big Show first debuted as Paul White. It was St. Valentine's Day Massacre in 1999. Steel cage match,
Stone Cold Steve Austin with Vince McMahon.
Versus Vince McMahon. And if you look at the Big Show from a longevity standpoint, the way he looked then, he was large. Like, he was huge, which he still is to this day. But he was solid muscle, man. And if you look, you know, through the years, he's kind of transformed, got a little weight on him, and now he's come back looking better than ever. What do you think that speaks to as far as his dedication to the business, as opposed to, you know, some of the other guys that might be in the business today that are, you know, not really in shape for what they need to do?
I mean, you're looking at a guy that is a go-getter. You know, he's a doer. He sat there and had one thing in his head and one thing only, and that was to wrestle. Rather or not, you know, he was a giant, yeah, but, you know, he had something everybody else didn't, and that was size, so he used it to his advantage. But not only, like, if you want to look at it at that standpoint, then we can even argue the fact of how passionate and, like, how much he busted his ass in and out from promotion to promotion, just doing what he loved to do. And that's a problem with, like, now. Like, you look at all these indies around here, especially on the Panhandle. Like, I've went from the Panhandle all the way to Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, up to North Carolina even. And these guys around here, like I quoted it earlier and I'll quote it again, they're weekend warriors. They don't have passion or dedication or any kind of will. They just want to go out there, throw their tights on and play superhero. Well, that's cool if you want to go play superhero, but don't put somebody in the ring that's, you know, passionate about it with, you know, a resume or, you know, somebody who takes his business serious, and then go in there and then, you know, shit the bed on them because you don't have in-ring psychology or an in-ring presence. You know what I mean? Like, you'll sit there and look at cards today, especially in the indies, and they'll have, you know, these no-names that they're charging $10, $15, $20 a seat, and what are you really presenting them with a product? You're not giving them storyline. You're just putting them in there. You're seeing guys that aren't even, like, they're trying to do a bunch of high spots and get all the shit in, and then, you know, it's basically come down to, like, it's just awful. Like, I've sat there and went to numerous indie promotions myself, and I've put in guys over, made them look like $1 million, And, out of being trained old school, out of respect, I won't say any names or anything like that, but it's just the will and dedication is not there. Like the locker room presence, from my experience in the WWF locker rooms to what I'm experiencing now, it's more childish play than it is being, mannered and taking it to a professional level. I mean, even it comes under your ring, dude. Like, you'll sit there and see people, like, cater the ring, throw up the banners and all that stuff and have a decorated show, but then, like, when you get to your card and talent-wise, have anybody that can pull a crowd, because you got 150-pound guys going in there and flying around doing a couple of high spots, and then, you just get a false finish. I mean, this is 2017. We've seen plenty of that. It's time to take a stand, man, and get our product back. I mean, there's nothing that's relevant nowadays as far as, like, real wrestling goes. It's all sports entertainment, and these indie guys don't even have that going for them, so what do we really have? We got your local mailman getting in the ring with a pair of tights just trying to put on a show that nobody's going to get behind.
Right, so, you're talking about that with the indies and all the high spots and everything, and that's pretty prevalent, with your local companies and even sometimes in Ring of Honor and PWG out on the West Coast. I know you're on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle again?
Jayden Steele, man. Like, even in my Instagram, I'm more on Instagram than I am Twitter right now, because, like, I went from, like, a solid fan base around here to getting known locally to, like, everybody knowing who I am in the independent scene on, the panhandle of Florida. And, I expand out a little bit, but, for my Instagram, it's the real deal Jayden Steele with underscores in between them. I went from nothing all the way up to 2,500 followers. I constantly love to give back to my fans. Still reserved for all y'all listening to my podcast, and thankful to be on the show. Thank y'all for listening. I just love being interactive, man. Like, as far as, like, Make-A-Wish goes, I love to get involved with that as well, because, like, there's nothing that gives you a more satisfying feeling than to go out to do what you love and put a smile on somebody's face.
Right. I mean, that's what it's all about, is putting asses in seats and suspending disbelief for a little while, and, taking people away from whatever they may have going on in their lives and putting on a hell of a show for them. And it seems like you're well on your way to doing that. I wanted to talk a little bit about Randy Orton, who I believe you may know from the locker room back in the day when you were a kid.
You're talking about Randall, and yes, Gateway Wrestling Productions, which was Rampage Wrestling, St. Louis, Missouri, local television. Cowboy Bob Orton at that time was running down there with a handful of guys that were in the indies. I don't know if they're still working or not, but there was like Dump Truck, Gravedigger, Lunatic Max, a handful of them guys. And then you had Tony Parks, going with Bob Orton, and they were doing their thing. Orton's like 10 or 11 years older than me, so, like, he's in his teenage days back in that day. So, I'm still at the point of, like, he didn't even know he was going to be a wrestler at that time. Like, I believe he went off to do the military a little bit after.
Yeah, he was in the Marine Corps. Hello? I think we may have lost the real deal Jayden Steele. So we're going to try to get him back and see what's going on. But, can you hear me, Jayden?
Yeah, can you still hear me?
Okay. All right, we got him back. This is a live podcast, so we got him back. We had a little bit of things. But I want to read something to you here, and this is from Rip Rogers. I'm sure you know the legend Rip Rogers. This is on his Twitter account, and he says, "Every indie match now. Handshake, drawn-out move exchange, this is awesome chant, strike exchange, dive, no-sell indie strong style, dive, more strikes, no sells, dive, flippy floppy sequence, dive, hit everyone with each other's finisher, then Humpty Dumpty we all fall down. Fight forever chant, rinse and repeat until every move is useless and means nothing, dive, take unsafe shot that looks like shit and hurts like hell, then roll up finish, handshake and hug after match, everyone's hands raised, all these guys chant, go home and type on social media thanking your opponents and the company for a match and telling others they should book these guys. Dive." What do you feel about? What's your thought on that from the legendary Rip Rogers?
Well, I can't say that I disagree with that one bit because, I mean, everything that he's stating is absolutely 100% correct because these guys think they can go out there and just do a couple of high spots and, do some flippy floppies and just dive all over the place. And then, back in the day, man, especially in the 90s, okay, you can relate just as well as I can on that. When Jake the Snake Roberts hit you with the DDT, it was over. When you got hit with that, it was 1, 2, 3, simple move. No psychology needed for that. You just took the bump, boom, let him pin you, pin me, pay me. So you look at nowadays, you see the DDT used frequently. Like, it ain't nothing but, just a make-up move for something to follow into your next sequence.
Well, it's been bastardized now, the DDT has.
It has, along with, like, a lot of other, like, finishes to this day. I mean, like, stuff that you see nowadays, man, like, in this business, especially with, like, the World Wrestling Entertainment, like, that's mainly for show now. I mean, if you go down to, like, ROH, TNA, Japan, these guys are busting their ass in the ring to provide you wrestling product. Not so much as, fancy flash and glamour as far as the entertainment perspective, but, growing up in the back of that locker room in the Attitude Era, and then watching it growing up and then getting into the business what it is now, it's a daylight dark difference. So I'm sitting here, like, expecting, to bleed, juice, whatever you want, color, like, all these, like, false finishes and these dives, like, I was trained old school, man, so you're not going to sit there and see me run through and do all these dives and these false finishes, and, it's just BS to me, and to me, that's bad in-ring psychology, because you got to blame, like, everybody that's involved to it, from the promoter just sitting there trying to get, it's all a big group of women, man. They all talk. They got their own little clique. If you're not in with them, they're going to hold you back. They're going to sit there and do everything to throw dirt on your name. They don't want you better than them. I actually faced that not too long ago with a couple of promotions around here. I put over a handful of guys and, pin me, pay me, basically. Like, I put them over, made them look like $1 million. I never complained, not once. And they're trying to, like, call the stuff back in the locker room. Well, I'm sorry, the way I was trained and the way I was raised, you can walk up to me, you want to do something in the beginning of the match, that's cool, you know what I'm saying? But, like, don't come back there to me and try to plan the whole damn match, you know what I'm saying? Just walk out there, call it in the ring, I'm strict on that. Like, I love to call it in the ring. I don't even like to talk about what's going on in the ring till I get out there, because to me, I feel like I'll put a better show on for the audience and the fans that pay with what's going on in the ring at that time.
And I want to discuss that a little bit further, but I wanted to go back real quick before I forget you're talking about the DDT earlier, and it has been bastardized quite a bit, and it's really more of a transition move these days to lead to another spot. But I will say, speaking of WWE, the Raw Women's Champion, Alexa Bliss, has actually been using the DDT as a finishing move, and I actually like that, because, when she hit it, you're thinking, oh, that's just a transition. Then she gets the 1, 2, 3, and you're like, well, shit, the DDT is back.
Right. I mean, some of these moves that are being bastardized, like, especially with the new talent coming up, if you can put your own swag to it, then, I mean, go ahead and hit it for the finish, man. Bring back what everybody loved in wrestling. Like, you know what I'm saying? How many, like, nowadays it's dead. You can't just throw somebody in a headlock for 5 minutes, work them slow, then throw them off the ropes and go into your high spot and end it. Like, it doesn't work that way anymore. Marks are a lot smarter than they were back in the day, so your fairy tales of giants and dragons are over with, you know what I mean? So you're basically looking at, like, any and everything that somebody's coming up with just to try to get over, and it's like, what are you really accomplishing other than, like, throwing, dirt on, like, moves that were prestigious back in our time?
Right, I feel you. So, with that, let's do this. Let's go ahead and get to some of these questions here. I'm on Instagram right now. We use the hashtag AskSteele for this. And there's a couple of questions for Ask Briggs, but of course, I don't have that much of a fan following, although I call them the Brigade, all two of them. So let's get to this first question here. This is from country_woman44 on Instagram. She asked, so when are you going to come to an SWA show? Hashtag AskSteele.
SWA. If I recall, that would be in Panama City, Florida, correct?
I believe so, yes.
I believe that's where it's at. I've sat there and seen, their posters, and like I've looked up some of their footage of like how they run their promotion and some of the talent over there. And I ain't gonna lie, they need the real deal over there, to be honest. I mean, I don't have a problem going over there and putting on a show. You know what I'm saying? Like, with my reputation, I am firm on where I stand, and you're not gonna find a better worker on the Panhandle of Florida. Like, if anybody wants to disagree, like I said to anybody and everybody, if you disagree with that statement, make the match, book it, I'll show up, we'll get in the ring, we'll tear the damn house down, and I promise you that I'll have every single fan up out of that seat. There ain't going to be no dives. It's going to be strictly old school, man. Like, I know exactly what I got to do to get over. And that's a big problem with a lot of these guys around here in the indies. Everywhere that I've gone, I've seen a handful of people in every single promotion struggling to get over. And every single town is different. You have to work the crowd completely different wherever you go. Like, you could go work somewhere that's an hour down the road from where you worked last week, and they'll want, less high spots, and they'll want the action slowed down. They all got their own, taste of the pot here. So if these guys are sitting there trying to, bring in managers to get these guys over, now you're seeing them switch titles in the indies, like, that's going to help them. I mean, you really, like, in the independent circuit, man, the way I look at it is that title ain't nothing but to help somebody get over that can't get over. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how many times I've sat there, got on a card in the opener or in the mid-card, and I've gotten bigger ovations and got that crowd set on fire for the main event, and that main event didn't even get near the noise like what I worked in the opener or that mid-card. And, that's embarrassing. These guys are losing money on this, and then they're going in the back and they're complaining about it. I mean, you got to listen to the fans. I mean, get some general knowledge. I mean, you can't, like, this is the problem with this business right now. I can't not stress it enough. These educated marks are sitting there grabbing their money that they're getting from their everyday job, and they're throwing a damn wrestling promotion together. They're grabbing local gas station clerks and all this other crazy stuff, and they're throwing them in the ring, and then they call themselves a wrestling promoter and want to run it like they're, Vince McMahon. That's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? You can't take somebody who does not know nothing about this business just because you got money, throw a card together and be like, oh, there it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't work that way. And people are paying the price for that. Like, how many indie shows have you seen around here, personally, through your perspective, and they're drawing less than 100 people?
Right, well, and some people say it's not the championship that makes the wrestler, it's the wrestler that makes the title. So, that's real, regardless of the promotion. If you go from the smallest place that's drawing 20 people, or if you go all the way up to the WWE, you can put the championship on anybody you want, but if that guy does not know how to elevate that title, bring relevance to it, and make people, put asses in seats to see them either get their ass kicked if they're a heel, or see them kick ass if they're a baby, then there's no reason for them to really have that title, because that title is not going to mean anything if the guy doesn't know how to elevate it.
Not only that, but you're putting straps on people that don't even have in-ring psychology, that when they get in there with somebody else, they're just wrestling and just trying to get their shit in, and then, pin me, pay me technique. It doesn't work that way. You're going to have to put a hell of a lot more effort into it. I mean, not only that, but, like, old school is damn near dead in this business, and, like, that kills me. You know what I'm saying? Like, right now I'm 26 and I'm in my prime, and I'm going 100% full throttle, and there ain't nowhere that I go where I'm not sitting there shaking somebody's hand, taking pictures, signing autographs, being interactive with them, getting in the ring, busting my ass for them, whether it's in front of 5 or 50 people, you know what I'm saying, all the way up to 1,000. It doesn't matter. I wasn't trained like that. With the old school mentality, whether it's 5 or 5 million people, you bust your ass like you're at that main event on the slot of the card. And these guys around here, like, respect's out the window. Like, I don't know how many times I've sat there and been in the back of a locker room, and these guys don't even know what kayfabe is. Like, back in the old days with, like, my dad wrestling and stuff, like, you say kayfabe, you're turning heads instantly. The locker room had their own, language. Like, Carney's gone. Like, who speaks Carney nowadays besides, the old cats? And, I'm blessed with that. Like, I'll be the first person to tell you, I'll sit down and I'll shoot it old school with you. I love it. I mean, I got a little bit of Randy Savage in me. You know, my old man was the only person Randy Savage ever trained in his entire life. And, you know, I have the weight of the world on my shoulders, it feels like. Like, I got to carry something that nobody else has, and that's Savage's legacy along with my dad's shoes to fill. I'm not trying to be them. I'm trying to elevate and make this business something better. And when I go to these locker rooms and there's just straight disrespect, it makes me just want to punch a hole in the wall because, I mean, what do we have and what are you doing to our business when you're sitting there talking about gutting, you know, legends and all this other stuff, and you're talking trash about, you know, professional athletes that been there and paved the road for you when you're sitting there going to a show that has 40 people and you don't get your way and you want to cry about it, or you want to talk trash behind somebody's back that you wouldn't do to their face. I mean, you know, back on the streets, you know, people call that fake, but, you know, in this business, like, you know, I'm just going to tell you straight up, if somebody did that to me and, like, I had word of wind on that, I mean, we'd go to Shoot City real quick. Like, that's the way I was brought up and I was raised. Like, you don't say you're going to gut somebody. Like, that's it's irritating me right now just thinking about it. But he knows who he is, and he'll have to someday pay that piper. So,
you know, you brought
we'll
up,
leave it at that.
You brought up two words that kind of brought one individual to mind. You brought up old school and you brought respect. And I wanted to get your opinion on this person because we know he's had an impact on almost anybody that's either in the business or outside the business. More so guys that are in the business, and I speak of The Undertaker. And I wanted to get your thoughts on what took place at WrestleMania a couple of months ago. You know, personally, you just get that feeling if you've been watching the product long enough, if you have a little bit of understanding. You know, I'm just a trainee right now, but I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of the business from the work side of it. You know, just watching it, you just kind of got to feel that was it. And, you know, for me, it was like watching my childhood sit there in the ring with a spotlight on it as the man walked off. So what are your thoughts on The Undertaker's alleged retirement at WrestleMania?
As far as his retirement goes, the man put in so many years of phenomenal creativity, especially with his craft. The man is a full-blown package. You know, he's a prime definition of somebody who got given a gimmick that anybody else in this world, if you handed them that gimmick, they would fail miserably. You got somebody who took that and took it all the way and ran with the ball. So, you know, growing up, you know, he was a major part of our wrestling childhood. You know, like, you knew who Taker was. You knew who The Rock was. You knew who Steve Austin was, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And I understand where the business is coming, like what point it's at now. Do I agree with what happened at WrestleMania? You know, that's me being biased because that was a childhood memory. But as far as a business perspective goes, I can understand that. But as far as that goes, you can't get somebody over anymore because the days of, you know, you shoving somebody down your throat, like, you know, Steve Austin, The Rock, Taker, those are who the fans chose. They stuck behind them no matter what. And they were going to get them over regardless. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. They were going to stay behind them 100%. Nowadays, they're too smart to the business. You're not going to be able to shove John Cena, Roman Reigns, you know, all them down our throats anymore and expect them to get behind them. You know what I'm saying? That's why they're booing Roman Reigns right now. You know, they're refusing to accept them. And you got people like, I think it's Michael Hayes, Cornette said not too long ago, he's one of the main guys behind the scenes right now trying to shove Reigns down everybody's throat. I mean, you're not going to get this guy over, and, you know, the fans aren't going to accept them. They're too smart. So they're choosing, and they know how this business works now, so they're basically choosing, you know, who's the top guy, who's hot, who's not. So, I mean, as far as business perspective goes, Samoa Joe right now, he's hotter than a firecracker. I would totally take the ball, give it to him, let him run with it, and see how far you can go with that, because they're 100% behind that man right now. As far as Taker,
you gotta wonder though. And sorry to cut you off, but you brought up a good point. Joe's hot right now. You know, he's about to face Brock, which has been a dream match for years now. Brock versus Joe. But there's another individual you got to think about who was also hot, but unfortunately got sidelined, and that's Braun Strowman. One of the most athletic big men I have seen in quite some time, and you've got to wonder, is Joe going to take Strowman's spot, or is Braun going to come back and roll right in the spot he was in and continue to be dominant?
You know, as far as, you know, their creative direction goes, I can't really speak for them. I do have a personal friend that I grew up with, and that's Dewey Foley, for anybody who wants a name drop, that actually works behind the curtain. And, like, God bless him. It's awesome that, you know, he's doing his dream, seeing, you know, my old buddies and all that. We're growing up, and we're actually doing what we need to in the business, and, like, we're continuing on. But as far as, like, Joe being hot, I would love to see Joe go over Lesnar, have Strowman come back, and then see Joe versus Strowman. Because, you know, you got two dominant guys that are coming up right now. You got that size, and like you said, his athleticism's off the charts for how big that guy is. I mean, it might not be Land of the Giants anymore, but when you got somebody that size, that's that athletic, I mean, come on now. Like, dude's got it going for him.
Man, I mean, he's sitting there. He's sitting there doing the Shawn Michaels kip ups, and you know, for y'all that haven't seen me, I'm about 5'9", about 205, and I try to do a kip up, and I look like a fish out of water. So you compare that to Braun Strowman, it's just amazing. I want to get to another question here. This is actually from YouTube, and I'm going to ask it because they used hashtag AskSteele, and it's Katrina Scarpa, and she says, "Hey, and I was wondering if you like going to the beach."
You're trying to rid me now. Oh, hell. I mean,
we do live in Florida.
So. Fun in the sun, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I don't really have time to really hit the beach like the way I'd like to, but I mean, between training regimens and, you know, trying to get everything and going down the road and traveling, there ain't really much in Florida as far as, like, competition goes. So, like, I'm always venturing out of state to go work. So, I mean, if I had time, I would love to. But other than that, I can't really, like, go running to the beach whenever I'd feel free, because I would, like, when it comes to my training, my wrestling, and my body, those are the things that I take very serious. And I actually punish myself as far as, like, commendation goes for, like, having fun, because I put business first.
So, good answer. And, you know, it has been raining a lot, so I'm sure that helps you not go to the beach. So I'm going to just go down to the next question from Steven Scarpa III. He asks, when is your next fight?
When is my next fight? I'm actually in the works right now with two people, and that's the Funkin' Conservatory, which is the Funks down there in Ocala. I'm actually trying to get something going down there because I'd love to go down there and work. They got a cat down there. I think his name's Dalton Delic. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's something along those lines. They got him playing a mean heel right now, and I think he'd love to get in the ring with the real deal, and I think we'd actually have some kind of spark there. There'd definitely be something going there. So I'm actually trying to work that out. There's another guy out there right now, Chase Britton. He runs Tennessee, and he goes all over the place from Colorado all the way to California, and he's been itching to get me out there. And I've watched some of the kids' footage, and I think that'd be a nice stepping stone as well. So you're possibly going to see the real deal coming up in either Ocala or Tennessee for sure.
Okay, cool. Well, actually, we got a question here for Ask Briggs. Who would have thought? There's one question out of the 4 pages One question. This person asks, what made you want to start training? Well, funny story.
Yeah, I'm actually curious on this.
Funny story.
I asked you this question the very first day I met you.
Well, I did. Like I said, I've loved the business for a long time. I can remember, watching Hogan and all them back in the 80s. But when I really got into wrestling, the first episode I ever saw, start to finish of Monday Night Raw, was a night when Stone Cold Steve Austin came out in a suit and tie. And everyone thought he sold out to Vince McMahon. Corporate Stone Cold, and he bag tagged Mr. McMahon, which I thought was cool because then the whole middle school was bag tagging everybody back then. So that's when I fell in love with the sport, and just continued watching it throughout the years as the Attitude Era reached its peak of popularity, and of course it went to a low spot. And it's coming back now, but you'll never have the Attitude Era again. Like Steve Austin says in his podcast, that whole roster is Hall of Famers. Some of them aren't in yet, but that whole roster is Hall of Famers. But just watching them, and I really gravitated toward The Rock. I don't know what it was about The Rock. He is electrifying, like he says, but I always wanted to be The Rock. I wanted to try to get my eyebrow to go up like The Rock. I even had this ugly...
He didn't use the catchphrases.
I had this ugly Hawaiian shirt that I used to wear all the time, because back when Rock wore those $500 shirts, that was really cool. So, fast forward, I wanted to get into wrestling. It didn't work out when I graduated high school and ended up going to the military. Did 10 years active duty, and then happened to decide, hey, I'm going to go to school and get my bachelor's degree. Well, I'm real bad about being distracted, so I had a PlayStation 4 sitting there under the TV here at the house, and I said, you know what, I need to sell this son of a bitch so that I can actually focus on school. Posted it online on Facebook for sale, and then this cat named Jayden Steele hit me up, asked me about it. So, with the state of the world we live in, I research whoever I meet up with when I'm selling something, if I got to take my weapon with me or something to defend myself. Or if I need to take a gun, my weapon would be my biceps. But, so I ran into this guy, and we ended up working out a deal and got in the ring. And I tell you what, that first bump I took gives you a whole different perspective of the sport of professional wrestling. So, well, once you have a taste of it, you're really kind of addicted to it. And you just want to get back in, no matter how much it hurts or how many flip bumps you fail at doing, or getting dumped on your head by another person's trainee that tries to flip you over the top rope incorrectly, but you still want to get back in the ring and try it. So it's always been something that I loved. It's always been something that I felt like I needed to do, and by God, here I am trying to do it. So that's what I guess to answer your question, what made me want to get into it was just a love for the business. So I got another question here for...
Well, let me cut you off before you ask that question, and I'm not going to use no hashtags to ask Briggs, but I will say from day one to where you're at right now, as far as the business goes, how has your perspective of what you do now compared to what you've seen on television affect your mindset?
Let's see. Like I said, it's a whole different perspective, a whole different ballgame once you're in the ring doing what's doing. On TV, of course, with the WWE being the major leagues, they make it look easy. They make it look so easy. And once you're there, you realize it does take precision, it does take practice, it does take getting in there and continue to perfect your craft. So from day one, when I was afraid to fall back, till now, where it's just kind of, after a while your body kind of calluses to it. It's my mindset is that it's something I need to continue doing and try to do what I wanted to do, which leading into my next question for you, but I'm going to answer it first. There's a lot of people that when they find out you're a professional wrestler, you're training to be a wrestler, wrestling has always gotten snickers and laughs, and everybody wants to say it's fake and whatnot. Let me say unequivocally, from day one until now, and I respected the guys before, but from day one until now, I'm going to say wrestling is not fake. The matches, of course, it's a work. It's predetermined. But it's not fake when you get slammed on the mat. It's not fake when you get punched in the head, anything like that. So, for those of you that want to say it's fake, I've said it before on Instagram, I'll say it now. Anytime you want to step into the ring and see how fake it feels, by all means, hit me up or Jayden Steele, and we'll show you just how fake wrestling is. On top of that, I also want to say, for people that want to judge wrestlers and disrespect wrestlers, or wrestling fans for that matter, for something that's fake, my question is this. If it's so bad because it's fake, why is Walking Dead so popular? Why is anything to this day that popular? When you talk about television, it's all, for show. Yeah, why is Fast and Furious so popular? Because there really are 20-mile runways for a C-17 to go down to get a fight scene. So my point is, it may be, you may not like it, but that doesn't give you a right to disrespect it. I personally think Walking Dead is dumb. They're zombies. You can't run away from a slow-moving zombie, and you're going to make 4 seasons out of this crap? Give me a break. So, I will digress, though, and ask the next question to you. How does it affect you when people disrespect the business like that and say that it's fake and it doesn't hurt?
You want my honest opinion on how I feel when I hear anybody say that? I want to rip their damn head off.
Okay, I was going to say, let's keep it family rated, but that's not bad, so you're good. We've seen we've seen that video on YouTube. I don't remember what the guy's name is. He's a blonde-haired guy, and the reporter said, "Oh, I think this is fake," and he slapped him across the face. And does that feel fake?
Correct. Correct.
I feel like that, and of course you've seen the video with the Undertaker and Vader over in India. Undertaker was the world champion at the time, and he said, "Look, I know what I do for a living, and it is what it is." And Vader, of course, took exception to that and grabbed the guy by his tie and kind of messed him up a little bit. So I assume you kind of felt the same way about it.
As far as, I use the word fake loosely, and you'll never really hear that word come out of my mouth as far as our business goes for the respect that I have for it. But when marks or any kind of individual, whatever you want to call them, start to bring up any kind of, there's so many people, especially to this day, man. Like, you see what we do on TV. We bust our ass, we bleed, we break bones. We mend ourselves, we lick our wounds, we get back in that ring, day in, day out. We bust our ass in the gym, and we go right back to that squared circle, and we do what we love to do, and that's wrestle and entertain. And as far as, when they want to sit there and use quote-unquote fake, then, we can break it down and digest it like this. What's so fake about somebody climbing to the top of that damn turnbuckle and just dropping a leg or an elbow or something on you? We don't have air brakes. We don't sit there and got some magical button in our pocket or in our tights or something we click to where we land safely. Every single thing that we do in that ring can affect our lives. We have to trust each other in that ring. And a lot of people don't see it like that. The guy across that ring from you can kill you just as easy as you can kill him. And it's a professionalism that, as far as old school mentality goes, is respect. And I won't never disrespect anybody from the custodian all the way down to the fan or the boys in the back. But when you start bringing up, stuff like that about our business being fake and all that, the only thing I can really say is let's pull the damn mat and we'll get right there on the 2x16s and let's have us a little dance, and at the end of the day, you can tell me how fake it feels.
Well, the thing is, you're talking about trusting. You got people like Brian Pillman, or not Brian Pillman, I'm sorry, like Darren Drozdoff, who's in a wheelchair and can't feel anything from his neck down, from
God
something
bless
that's
the
fake.
man, too.
You've got somebody like Steve Austin. We brought his name up so many times in this podcast, but he's had such an impact on the business. But the man has to wear double knee braces. He had to ride off, as he says, into the sunset a little earlier than any of us would want to because he had neck issues. I take you back to when Owen Hart, rest in peace, when Owen Hart dropped him on his head for the pile driver, So for someone to say it's not fake is just disrespectful to people like that. And even people like The Undertaker, who has wrestled with his entire orbital socket crushed, where he's wrapped flak jackets around his ribs and gone and wrestled for 2 nights with broken ribs, In the NFL, everybody loves the NFL, right? They play what? How many games a year? 12, 13 games a year.
You're looking at 16 games.
16 games plus an injured reserve list. You got turf toe or something, whatever. Wrestlers are on the road 320 days plus a year if you're a full-time WWE star, and there is no off season. So for someone to disrespect the business like that, I'm getting a little hot here too because it's pissed me off for years when people say that. But it's a big deal. So, well, let's get a couple more questions in here because we're going to wrap this thing up. I've got to go to the gym and continue to try to hit my goal, which, by the way, for those of you who don't follow me on Instagram, it's the Dustin Briggs. You see on Instagram last night I posted I hit 260 on bench. My goal is to join the 300 club, so we'll see if I can hit that in a couple of months. But this question here is for you, Jayden, and that question is this. How did you come up with your finishing maneuvers? You've got the deal breaker, and then you've got the I'm drawing a blank. What are your finishing moves?
The real deal.
The real deal.
You got the real deal, and you got
the deal breaker. And I felt the deal breaker numerous times. I felt the real deal a couple times. But how did you come up with those finishing moves? Were they is it something that you wanted to pay a tribute to?
The background behind the deal breaker was that being trained old school and watching it, growing up, everybody craps on submissions nowadays. Submissions don't mean nothing hardly anymore. You only got a select handful that'll actually finish somebody with it and actually use it and not, bastardize it. So I sat there one day and I was thinking, what can I do to pay homage to what I loved? And I was sitting there and I precisely thought of one move that my old man always showed me and would play around with me as a kid, and that was the Indian Deathlock. I loved the Indian Deathlock, and I loved the setup. I loved the way you had to, get into the positioning for it, and it looked very painful. And I sat there and was thinking, to this generation of being 2017, related back to the 80s, what can I do to pay homage and have something with a bit of a twist to it? And, having, a passion for the Indian Deathlock, I was sitting there and I just had a vision of the Indian Deathlock with, like, a modified Kimura or an armbar. And when I did the Indian Deathlock, I was working it in the match, and when I threw it in there, I was setting it in. He was sitting there yelling, and he was flapping his hands all around. I'm going to drop a name, Kevin Lockhart, if you're hearing this, man. You already know. And he was just flopping around, screaming and yelling, and I just had the ambition to just grab his left arm, throw it into a Kimura, and just wrench it while I had him in the Indian Deathlock. And then when I got back into the locker room, a couple of the boys were like, hey, man, you've got something going right there. Nobody uses this. I went and looked at the footage. It had the old school flavor to it with a little bit of a twist, and it looks painful. And when I lock you in it, you're done. The match is over. I'm not gonna put false finishes on that move. You'll never see me put that on somebody in the ring for a false finish, because I'm not gonna bastardize something that I have so much respect for. So that's where the deal breaker came from.
Have you won any championships with those moves, or if not, what is the first championship that you want to win?
The first championship. See, I'm not like these guys around here that want to just chase for highlights. I don't do this for money. I don't do this for fame. I don't do it for titles. I go out there and strictly do it for passion, dedication, and will. Like, I love to entertain. I love to wrestle, more importantly. Like, I'm a wrestler. Yes, I can entertain, but I'm a wrestler. I grew up watching wrestling. So, as far as that goes, I'm not trying to chase titles. If they come to me, then, God help me. Thank you. It's a blessing. But I'm out there to entertain them people, and more importantly, I'm out there to do it for me, and that's wrestle. I want to be the best damn wrestler I can be. You can be the best sports entertainer, but when you bring up wrestling, I want my name to be up there along with the Mount Rushmore of the greats.
All right, so speaking of wrestling, Jasmine Cherry 49 from Instagram asks, have you ever lost a tooth during a fight?
Have I ever lost a tooth during a fight? Fortunately, I have not lost a tooth yet.
Better knock
but
on wood,
I
then.
Will. Right. But I will share this. I haven't lost a tooth, but I have messed my knee up very badly going back to when I got my second match ever. It was over in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. And I had 2 matches that night, and I basically set up. I went 10 minutes in the mid card, and I was working. It was Sean Black at that time, and I had him over there. I was working him. I was playing heel. I was catching my heat, drawing some cheap heat, and I drive him over to the damn rope, and I lay him down on it. And I'd be damned when I sit there and I just jump off that second rope, and I just drop the leg on him. My left knee just buckles, and I actually got footage on it. Like, I can actually show the injury if anybody wants to see it. Like, when I come down, you just see the left knee buckle, and I instantly, pain just registers through my thoughts, and first thing I thought, walk it off. You might not be that hurt, man. About 5 seconds into that, I started walking. It was an instant limp. I knew something was bad wrong, and I still had 6 minutes left of the match to go, and the irony behind the whole thing was the old man was sitting there shooting stuff with me, and he sat there and said, you might want to invest in some knee pads, because I've never went out to the ring without knee pads. You might mess your knee up. And, of course, me being the arrogant SOB that I am, I was like, nah, I don't need that, Dad. I'm good. And then sure enough, second match out, here it comes. I got a blown knee. So we go back into the locker room, and they come up to me and they say we got to go 20 minutes in the main event for the tag team titles. So I'm sitting there with a knee that's about the size of a softball swollen up, and I got ice on it, and I can't run at this point, and I could barely even move it. It was an instant limp. And, you know, being who I was with my dad and who he is, I was like, hey, Dad, you really got to, like, I know you got secrets. I know you guys know how to work these injuries. Like, please, for the love of God, get me through the night. And sure enough, that man went and grabbed the ice and athletic tape, and, you know, he did his thing. And here I go, going out 20 minutes into a main event with a bum knee that's the size of a softball. And the good thing the adrenaline was running, because I swear after that match, man, when I drove 5 hours back home, when I got home, I couldn't walk. Like, I was put on the shelf for 2 weeks after that, and I put the knee brace on the following week, and I went back to go do what I loved.
You know, speaking of that, I've had a little injury story myself. I rolled my ankle in a ring. It was one of the stupidest things ever. Just coming out of a corner, a turnbuckle, taking a super kick, and by God, my foot got hit the wrong way, and to this day, that was back in February, to this day my ankle still bothers me. So that's another reason why people say it's fake. Hey, you know what, that didn't feel fake when I heard it. So but we're going to wrap this up here very quickly. Like I said, I got to go to the gym here in a minute. Let me see if I got any more questions here for you before we ride off into the sunset. Natural_talker on Instagram asks, if you go to WWE, would you rather be on Raw or SmackDown? And you can't cop out of this. You have to pick one and tell me why.
I have to pick one and tell you why.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll answer that, and then I'll give my statement behind it. If I had to pick Raw or SmackDown, I'm going to have to go SmackDown because, number one, knowing Randall personally, which is Randy Orton y'all, I would love to work Randall one time. Being, you know, a kid and him a teenager back in the day before we even knew what we wanted to do, to, you know, him being on top of the world, being the vet that he is today, and, you know, me breaking into the business, I would love to work him at least one time. And AJ Styles, that guy is a phenomenal talent. He's the best talent, in my opinion, on the roster. And I mean, you know, it's funny. You know, it's not only a catchphrase. The man can live to his word. Like, I believe that we'd have like an insane chemistry. Like, I really believe we could tear the roof down. But as far as that goes, to be honest, I really like. As far as entertainment goes, man, I'm a wrestler. Like I said, I can entertain. Don't get me wrong. I can act. You know, I got a little bit of acting in my background. I've done a couple of things, done a couple of indie little shows for movie marketing and all that. But, man, I'm looking more towards, like, Japan or TNA or something along those lines, because I would rather, in the beginning of my career, go and do what I set out to be, and that's to wrestle. I want to be the best damn wrestler there is. And, you know, I could sit here and tell you why I'm the best, but I would rather show everybody. And, you know, if there's anybody listening out there, like I said before, I'll say it again. If you disagree, book the match, and I'll show you why I am the real deal.
All right, man. Well, is there anything else you want to say to the fans before we wrap this up?
Oh, yes. Actually, like, I love how interactive you guys have been to me. Y'all have showed me so much love within this past year. It is insane. We've went from nothing to 2,500 followers. You guys have blown my YouTube channel up to like 150-something subscribers now. Continue the work, guys. Like, as long as you don't give up on me, I will not give up on you guys. Like, believe in me, and I will give you the best that I can possibly can until the day I get put in the ground. Like, without you guys, y'all are the reason why I do this. Like, I live to get into that ring to put smiles on your faces when you guys have bad days. Like, I put my body through hell, and there's not a day that goes by that I'm not sitting here sore. But you know what? I love every minute of it. This is what I've come to do, and this business is going to learn why I'm the real deal. And whether they want to accept it or not, I'm here to stay, and I'm here to take names and kick ass. So continue down the road. You're going to see the real deal somewhere on the mainstream.
All right, Jayden, I appreciate you coming on the Dustin Briggs Show. We'll see you down the road, brother.
All right, man. Thank you for having me.
We'd like to send a special thanks out to the real deal Jayden Steele for appearing here on the debut edition of the Dustin Briggs Show. Go ahead and stay tuned because we're going to have some upcoming shows in the upcoming weeks. I got some great guests lined up. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Just look for Dustin Briggs. You'll find me on there, I promise. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, y'all. We'll see you next time here on the Dustin Briggs Show.